keen to get your thoughts on, how you see company culture and how you see that, affecting hiring as well.
Company culture is something that's talked about all the time, but to me it's really critical in terms of forming the sort of environment within an organisation where you're going to get the best business outcomes. So the sort of the impact of hiring and business on hiring, culture and hiring and culture, I think comes down to, if you look at it in any organisation, the leadership, the staff, their vision and values, and how they combine all of those things within the organisation. That's really what creates the culture. And every person that you bring into that situation will either strengthen that culture or it will detract from that culture. So that's why it's really important when you're hiring to pay particular attention, not just to their technical skills, which are obviously important, but also to their culture and what's important to them in a work environment, so you can see where they're going to fit in terms of the culture that you've already got.
And have you seen, the benefits, any solid benefits of building a good company culture?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the last few years in particular, I've specialised in consulting with smaller companies. And one of the things with smaller businesses is you really can't afford not to have a good cultural fit, because you've only got a limited number of people, everything's very visible. So that's on the negative side. I guess on the positive side, if you get someone who possibly your company may be struggling to get to the cultural position that it wants to be at, so to bring in the right person who has a really positive, and particularly in a leadership role, can just really get all the other people who may have been uncertain how they were going to get pulled along, just absolutely in gear again.
So, do you think there's any consequences to hiring if the person doesn't fit within the company culture?
If you pick someone who culturally doesn't quite fit, what tends to happen is you'll find the rest of the existing team will start to identify that person doesn't really feel like part of the team. And then that becomes an issue in the workplace, because people try to find reasons why they shouldn't be there. Really, there's a couple of ways that you can deal with it, but to me the most effective ones is just to watch, particularly in that first initial week or so, how the person's going, and you'll get a sense of whether they look like they're comfortable or not.
How they interact.
How they interact, how the other people seem to be accepting them. And look, some people take longer than others to come out of their shell and actually, fit in. But you can usually see after a week or two whether that looks like it's working. And if it's not, go and sit with them. I always say to people, particularly in that first 3 months, which is usually a probation period, that's your time where you can come and check everything out about us, and we're going to check everything out about you. And so that's your chance to go and talk to them and say,
that's quite good.
How are you going?
Way to
How are you
introduce
finding it? And sometimes people will go, you know what? I don't really think this is the place for me.
It's nice to prepare people as well that you are going to. So they don't, so they're not aware it is a cause.
That's right. So they can say, hey, it's not actually what I thought it was going to be, and I'm not sure that this is where I want to spend the rest of my, the next few years. Sometimes they'll go, no, everything's fine. But you watch them over a period of time and you see that everything isn't fine. And my suggestion there is that you try and work with them as much as you can to actually see where it is that they may not be quite comfortable. And if you can do something about it, by all means help them. But at the end of that 3 months, if they're still struggling to find their place and you're not sure whether they will, unless their technical skills far outweigh any cultural concern that you've got, then I'd be saying to really take that into consideration in terms of what you do past the end of their probation period.
If a company hasn't actually got, a hiring plan per se in place in terms of the company culture, are there any tips, that you could give as to how about they would begin?
Absolutely. So what I'd suggest is, and what I found useful in the past, is that you have a look amongst the existing staff that you've already got, and you think about the individuals who to you epitomise what you want the company culture to look like. So it's not just their technical skills, it's how they get along with other people, it's how strong their relationships are with other people in the company and outside. It's about their attitude. Are they a can-do person? Are they, no, I only do this and I'm not doing anything else? And you pick those positive attributes, and when you go into an interview situation, they're the ones that you try to identify in the people that you're interviewing. And that way, while you don't want to make the mistake of recruiting everyone in the same image as the people you've already got, those attributes will often make it easier for people to work together if they're similar.
Are there any types of, resistance when actually doing that, or when actually starting a new initiative like that management can expect?
Needs to be aware of. Yep, absolutely. So what you might find is in an environment where you've got employees who've been in the company for a long period of time, they can see someone who comes in with a bit of extra spark or a bit of extra enthusiasm or a bit of innovation as a bit of a threat. And what they can start to do is start to undermine either that individual, or they'll go on a little, it's almost like a phase of talking to the other people in the organisation about, well, this is not how we've always done it, and is this really what we want? And I guess the best advice...
Create uncertainty.
Yeah, that's right. And then try and turn the rest of the staff against this new person. And I guess the best advice for management in that situation is you can usually identify that they may be issues before you've actually done the interview process.
Okay.
And so you can hit them head on before they become an issue. And by doing that, I mean you get key people within the organisation who are going to be supporters going around and working with those people who may be a little less sure about whether it's going to be a positive outcome, and get them to understand that it's probably a good thing. And an example I could give you of that is I recently recruited a person into an organisation that I work with, and we announced it as soon as the person dropped their acceptance in the morning, and I was in a meeting with another person and they said, wow, that's fantastic, that person's going to make such a difference to our team, and they're so positive and they know our product and that's all going to be great. And he walked out of the meeting with me and walked into a room full of other people and told them, and one of them said, oh no, that's not good. They also knew this person. They went, that's going to be so hard to deal with. And to this person, the first person's credit, they said, no, this is the best thing we could have. They understand this part of what we do. And so what you've got is a champion there who starts to rub off on those people who are a little bit doubting and actually really reinforces that positive impression. And I think it's important to get that from the staff level, but also from the management level.
What about in terms of, actually further down the track, maybe, after the individual started, actually reassuring employees?
Yeah, so I think once people actually get on board, and I'm sure we've all experienced this when we go to a new workplace, we like to think that everybody's taking us at face value and looking what we do and giving us a fair go. But in reality, we all know that people are probably going to say, what do you think, what do you think? And it's a matter of giving that person the time to settle in, looking at the positive things that they're bringing into the environment, and really if you've got still people who are not positive about the experience or the changes that that new person might be bringing in, if the rest of the organisation thinks that's the right way to go, have some one-on-one discussions with the people who may not be quite so comfortable with it. Try to explain to them the benefits of going in that new direction, and really if you can't reach a point with the people who are doubters that actually that is the best way to go, I think you need to take a step back, look at the whole team and say, do I have a problem here? And if I do, is it my new hire, or is it potentially some of the other people who are resisting the change? And then deal with that accordingly.
In an actual interview stage, are there any tips that you've got, for interviewers or even recruiters in how to actually assess if somebody is or is not the right cultural fit?
So what I'd suggest is when you're doing the questioning is to actually talk to the person and say to them, tell me about the culture of where you work now. How would you describe it? And listen for the sorts of things they're saying. So if they say, oh, everyone's really young and hip, and we go out on Friday nights and we have a few drinks and we all talk to each other on Facebook every second that we're out of the office, and you think, no one here goes out for a drink. We don't use Facebook. I don't think that this person's going to be able to relate to the people we've got in the office. Then I'd be questioning whether you've got the right fit. How are we going to identify the ones that are really probably going to fit in our culture? Now, there are people out there that you interview that are going to fit into any culture because they're just your absolute dream candidate, and they will do well wherever you put them. But I think the number one thing is attitude that comes across in the interview. It's that can do, I want to get there, I'm really passionate about what I want to do, I'm happy to be innovative, I like to contribute. They're usually the characteristics that will add value to any culture. Number one is you need to have the cultural fit, but you've also got to make sure that their underlying technical competency for what you're getting them to do is there. Because otherwise what you end up is with a really nice person who everybody feels like
everybody's best friend.
Yes, that's right. They're everyone's best friend and everyone loves them, but they go, I don't want to be on a project with them because I don't think they're going to be able to do the job. So they have to have the technical competence right.
Thank you so much. No, that's definitely been informative, and I think it's helpful as well to find out how cultural can affect business. Definitely.
Absolutely, and look, I can't stress enough. I guess one final point. I know I said I was going to do 3, but 4, and that is that culture's not something where the leadership in an organisation can come along and say, the culture isn't right here and we need to fix it. Culture always has to be driven from the top, and the person who's leading the organisation has to be part of that culture. It's not something that you can hire a HR manager to fix or implement or solve. They can come in and they can certainly help you and drive that process, but the person at the top has to be committed to having the culture that everyone needs to work in.
Yeah, it's got to come from within.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely. Thank you.